You know that feeling when you bend down to pick something up off the floor, and your body just says, nope. That was me at 68. After 4 decades as a nurse, my body felt like it had been through a war. I couldn't even put my own socks on without sitting down and struggling. Touching my toes. That seemed like a distant memory from another lifetime. Hi, I'm Margaret Wilson. For years, I told myself that stiffness was just part of getting older. That flexibility was something you surrender to time, like a tax you pay for living past 60. But I was wrong. So wonderfully wrong. I still remember the exact moment I decided something had to change. It was my granddaughter's 5th birthday. All the kids were playing this silly game where they had to touch their toes and then reach for the sky. "Grandma, play with us," she called out. The look of disappointment on her face when I had to say no is something I'll never forget. That night, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. Hunched shoulders. Stiff movements. I'd spent my whole career as a nurse helping others move and recover, yet I couldn't help myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. After retiring at 65, I'd slowly become less and less active. I told myself I deserved to rest after standing on hospital floors for decades. But rest had turned to rust. My joints felt like they needed WD-40. Getting out of bed each morning had become a symphony of creaks and groans. Like a lot of people my age, I believed certain things about flexibility after 60 that just weren't true. I thought flexibility is genetic. Some people are just naturally bendy. Once you lose flexibility, it's gone forever. Stretching is dangerous for seniors. I might fall or hurt myself. I'm too old to start something new. These weren't just thoughts. They were prison walls I'd built around myself. Walls that kept me from trying, from believing I could change. When my doctor told me I had the joint mobility of someone much older than my actual age, it was a wake-up call. He explained that my stiffness wasn't just uncomfortable. It was increasing my risk of falls, making everyday tasks harder, and potentially shortening my independence. I'd love to tell you I immediately jumped into an intense flexibility program, but that's not what happened. My first steps were tiny, almost embarrassingly small. I started with just 5 minutes each morning. Simple movements while sitting on the edge of my bed. Gentle shoulder. Rolls. Ankle circles. Nothing Instagram-worthy, that's for sure. The first week was discouraging. I felt like I was moving through molasses. Everything hurt. I questioned whether this was even worth it. But something told me to keep going. Maybe it was that image of my granddaughter's disappointed face. Maybe it was 4 decades of nursing experience telling me that movement is medicine. Either way, I stuck with it. 5 minutes became 10. Chair stretches became standing stretches. And slowly, so slowly I barely noticed at first, things started to change. About 3 months into my journey, I had what I can only describe as a breakthrough moment. I was in my bathroom, getting ready for bed, when I dropped my face cream. Without thinking, I bent down to pick it up. It was only when I straightened up that I realized what had happened. I'd bent down, with proper form no less, and stood back up without holding onto anything. Without pain. Without that moment of dread. I burst into tears right there in my bathroom. They were tears of joy, relief, and maybe a little bit of pride. For the first time in years, my body had done what I asked of it without complaint. That night, I tried touching my toes. I couldn't reach them yet, but I was. closer than I'd been in a decade. Progress, not perfection, became my mantra. As a nurse, I've always been interested in the why behind physical changes. So I dove into the research on flexibility and aging. What I learned fascinated me and might surprise you too. Contrary to popular belief, the decline in flexibility as we age isn't primarily due to changes in our muscles or tendons. It's more about changes in our connective tissue, specifically something called collagen cross-linking. These cross-links make our tissues less elastic over time. But here's the good news. Regular stretching can counter this process. It can actually reorganize the collagen fibers in our connective tissue, making them more elastic again. Studies show that people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s can improve their flexibility significantly, sometimes matching the flexibility they had decades earlier. Our bodies retain this remarkable adaptability throughout our lives. As a medical professional, this made perfect sense to me. The body responds to the demands we place on it. When we consistently ask our joints to move through their full range of motion, they gradually adapt to that request. People often ask me what my flexibility routine looks like now. It's nothing fancy or complicated, but consistency has been key. Every morning, I spend 15-20 minutes on what I call my joint liberation routine. I start from my neck and work down to my toes, gently moving each joint through its range of motion. No forcing, no bouncing, just patient, persistent movement. 3 times a week, I do a more focused session that targets my particularly tight areas: hamstrings, hip flexors, and lower back. These are the areas that had been giving me the most trouble. I also discovered the magic of what experts call loaded mobility, essentially strengthening muscles while they're in a stretched position. This has been a game changer for making my flexibility gains stick. Water has become my best friend too. I drink more of it, yes, but I also stretch in it. The community pool near my home has become my sanctuary. The buoyancy of water makes everything easier and gentler on my joints. When I started this journey, I just wanted to be able to play with my grandkids without feeling like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. But the benefits have extended far beyond what I ever imagined. My sleep has improved dramatically. Those aches and pains that used to wake me up multiple times a night, mostly gone. My energy levels have soared. I used to need a nap every afternoon. Now I can go all day. My mood is better. There's something about moving freely that lifts your spirits. I find myself smiling more, laughing more. My confidence has returned. I stand taller, literally. I've regained almost an inch of height that I'd lost to poor posture. But perhaps most surprisingly, my social life has blossomed. Through classes and online communities focused on senior flexibility, I've made new friends who understand exactly what this journey feels like. Now, I don't want to paint a picture that this journey has been all sunshine and successful toe touches. There have been setbacks. Plenty of them. About 6 months in, I developed a painful shoulder issue that forced me to modify my routine. At first, I was devastated. I thought it meant I was right all along, that my body was just too old for this. But instead of quitting, I consulted with a physical therapist who specialized in working with seniors. She helped me understand that the pain wasn't a sign to stop. It was information my body was giving me about what needed attention. With her guidance, I modified my approach. I learned that flexibility isn't just about stretching harder, it's about stretching smarter. Sometimes, what feels like a flexibility issue is actually a stability issue in disguise. There were days when my motivation waned. Days when the progress seemed too slow. Days when old thought patterns tried to creep back in. On those days, I relied on the community I'd built, both in person and online. Their encouragement carried me through the rough patches. What surprised me most about this flexibility journey isn't the physical changes, it's the emotional ones. For years, I'd been unconsciously bracing myself against the world. Tensing up, holding my breath, preparing for pain before it even arrived. This physical armoring had become a metaphor for how I was living my life, cautiously, defensively, with limited expectations. As my body began to open up, something in my spirit opened up too. I became more willing to try new things, more accepting of uncertainty, more present in each moment. There's a vulnerability in stretching, in reaching for something that seems just beyond your grasp. You have to surrender to the process, to trust that your body knows what to do if you just give it time and consistent attention. This lesson has rippled out into every area of my life. I approach challenges differently now. Instead of thinking, I can't do that, I think, I can't do that yet. So where am I now 2 years into this journey? Well, I can touch my toes. And then some. I can get up and down from the floor without assistance. I can play with my grandchildren without fear or limitation. I can put on my socks standing up, a small victory that feels enormous. But the numbers and measurements don't tell the whole story. The real victory is in how I feel in this body of mine. I feel at home again. I feel capable. I feel free. At 70 years old, I'm more flexible than I was at 50. Let that sink in for a moment. I'm more flexible now, 2 decades later. If that doesn't challenge everything we believe about aging, I don't know what does. My journey has become something of a legend among my friends and former colleagues. When they express amazement, I always tell them the same thing. If I can do this, anyone can. And I mean it. There is nothing special about me except my willingness to start and my stubbornness about not giving up. As I wrap up this story, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about becoming a yoga master or a contortionist. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about reclaiming the freedom to live comfortably in your own body. It's about independence, dignity, joy. If you're listening to this and thinking your flexibility days are behind you, I'm living proof that it's never too late to change that story. Whether you're 60, 70, 80, or beyond, your body is waiting for you to begin this conversation. Start small. Be consistent. Be patient with yourself. Find support. And most importantly, celebrate every tiny victory along the way. Remember, flexibility isn't just about touching your toes. It's about expanding what's possible in your life. It's about saying yes when you used to say no. It's about freedom. If my story has resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your own flexibility journey. Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you're just starting out, let me know that too. This community has been an incredible source of support for me, and we're all here to cheer you on. Thank you for listening to my story. Here's to staying flexible, in body and in spirit, for all the years to come.